Hello, everybody. It is I, the Great Clement. With me, as always, is my co-host.
Hello, everyone. I am back, and with probably the best mic setup I have ever had.
Yeah.
It's such a difference from the last episode, right? You're like, Carol, you should get a better mic. So I not only got a better mic, I overperformed and got, the best mic that I could reasonably and financially get.
God bless Black Friday.
Yes.
So yeah, you definitely sound a lot clearer, a lot better. Probably the best you've ever sounded ever in a podcast. I'll have to hear it back when we're editing, but so far, just going from Discord and the files you've sent me, it's incredible. It's amazing.
Because, specifically for the last, I want to say, 4 or 5 years, I've used, this headset with, a microphone that extends out of it.
Uh-huh.
And that one started screwing up and getting a little wonky around 2 years ago, to the point where it would constantly, disconnect and reconnect from my laptop. So I had to get rid of that during the move back home, and for the last C-Squared episode we recorded, I had to literally use the microphone on my computer, which isn't great, but you can still hear me.
Yeah.
But now I have a new microphone, and it's great.
Hallelujah. But, yeah. And now that we've said a great piece of news, we have to talk about our one and only headline, because there's not a lot that happened this month. But, there was this whole U.S. election thing, and it certainly didn't go the way I thought it was going to go.
Yeah. I'm sorry my country is stupid.
God.
I just have to say that first and foremost.
It really felt like a done deal. I felt like 4 years ago we had already gotten tired of the guy, and that's why we voted in old-ass Biden. And I figured that, people just wised up, and we were tired of this horse shit. And no, 4 more years of everything being fake news and everyone being illegal that we need to deport, and transgender people are bad and gay people are bad and all of this bullshit. And congratulations. You got what you wanted. I hope you're happy that the tariffs will make your life that much harder to live.
It's okay, that's what they want. That's what they want. Okay.
I know. And the problem is, that first time, I could at least, let it slide through ignorance. I could say, okay, they didn't know any better. They saw a reality TV celebrity and thought, I liked The Apprentice. I liked him. I'll give him a vote. And they just didn't know what he was saying. And maybe they hadn't heard about the pussy grabbing and all that horse shit. But,
Mm-hmm.
This second time, you know his scandals. You know what he was being charged for. You know all of the fucking shit he did in the first 4 years. His reaction to the COVID situation.
Yeah.
If you still think that's fine, you can have it, but I will never look at you the same. I'm sorry. I just can't.
How was the insurrection not the end of everything?
I don't know.
Because, Because, I look at pictures of that and, the whole timeline of that, and I'm like, how is this not the end? Regardless of which candidate was pushing for it, it's still really, fucked up.
Yeah.
To just charge through Congress like that. I'm like, I don't get it.
Did you not pay attention to the debate where he was talking about how people were eating cats and dogs and shit?
Yeah, but people don't care about that.
How many reports came out that he seems like he's on dementia issues? We were complaining about how both candidates were old as fuck. And then we had one that wasn't old, and no, sorry. Too much wokeness is ruining the world, so...
Oh my gosh. We were joking about, the amount of woke videos there are, but, actually, it is very ingrained in, a lot of, the culture that's in America right now. And I could, go in for I could talk about so many reasons about why 2024 election went the way that it did, but it would be really, really long for a podcast. And I've already talked about it with like some of my family members and friends. But it's just like, well, you kind of got what you wanted. I guess this country doesn't compromise, you know, morality or whatever. I don't know.
Guess not.
I don't know.
I guess they don't want their president to be a role model, a good message for kids or anything. I guess not. Whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I am worried for your country. I am worried because, you know, there was that Project 2025 going around and what they said they wanted to do. And now that the Repubs are in the House and the Senate, it feels like he'll have more power than he's ever had before. And I really hope that his incompetency really shines through and that something goes horribly wrong for this institution. But fuck, if you can't recognize the early signs of fascism, you never will.
Mm-mm.
And I just hope that this isn't as bad as it could potentially be. Maybe we're overreacting. Maybe it's not the end of the world as we know it, but it's gonna get harder.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's gonna get better. It's not. These tariffs and the things that he wants to implement and the xenophobia that's gonna be out there, like, I'm sorry, this is gonna be a bad time. And I can only laugh through the pain. Because I just, yeah.
It's only going to get harder for a lot of marginalized identities in the United States. Especially from, like, where you live. Because, like, a lot of the times the state where you live in affects, like, a lot of your policy.
Yeah.
So, like, I would encourage you, like, if you are ever concerned about these kinds of things, like, look into your community, find those resources, find your friends to support, like, find a support group, find your community, because a lot of shit like this is dark, and you're probably not the only one feeling the emotions that you're feeling. So reaching out and leaning on those that support you, definitely, like, it won't solve anything of what's going on by the end of the day, and it's not going to go away for a long time now, but at least you have that sense of comfort. And I think that's just what's been carrying me over the last month.
Yeah. I'm glad we did this podcast like a month after the fact, because I feel like if we did it like the week of.
Oh no, we would have a 3-hour podcast. Because again, I could go on for many, many reasons on why the results ended up being the way that they were.
Ugh.
But yeah.
I just want it out there, like, no, I'm not proud of this decision. I dread the Canadian elections with Polivev, or whatever his name is. I just want all of my transgender fans, my LGBT fans, my, whatever minority you identify as, like, you got an ally with me. I am not supporting this guy in any way, shape, or form. I don't like that this turned out the way it did. And this will never be a space that harms you or goes against you. That's basically all I wanted to say.
I'm Latina, I'm queer, yes, I have my own story and identity to kind of just draw from that. My family immigrated here. I have, like, it just hurts me to see all these horrible, like, administrations harm people that, like, I am close to, and people who, like, I really want to, like, live and enjoy life and not have to worry about, like, any sort of barrier that they might face. It's, it's just sad, but we got you. I'm here for you too.
Yeah. And if this election has taught anyone anything, I want you to remember this for the rest of your life, okay? To all the young people listening to this, I swear you really need to remember this. Your vote matters, okay? There was a lack of turnout this year, going by the statistics. Like, a lot of people who turned out in 2020 did not turn out for this year. And maybe it's because they thought, well, it's going to be okay. Nobody likes this guy. Nobody's going to do this. It's going to be okay. And obviously, because most of them thought that, it's not okay now. Because they didn't do anything. Apathy is always the biggest enemy to any kind of creative, to any kind of will, to any kind of drive. And you can't just assume things will work out and that you don't need to do your part. We all need to do our part. And this is why voting is so friggin' important. It is an important thing. It is an important tool. And you gotta get out there when democracy is on the line, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I know we don't usually talk politics. I'm not here to lecture my audience. I'm not here to bum them out. But it is a major event in our world. It is going to influence how things go for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I'm really scared, especially.
Hopefully, us talking about video games and pop culture and movies and all that stuff will help soothe the...
And wrestling.
And wrestling,
and
of
sports.
Course. We'll never stop talking about wrestling.
And wrestling and sports and music and other things.
I'm actually going to talk about an anime today. I never talk about anime.
Yeah, you never watch anime.
You finally got me to do it. I'm finally going to talk about an anime. That's crazy.
Yeah, let's go.
But, good luck.
Thank you.
That's all I got. I can only laugh through the pain, but good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the election did kind of ruin one thing for us. At least, it ruined something for you. I'm still very fond of this game. I'm still very happy with the overall product. But
I'm still fond too. It's just timing, man. But anyway, go on.
We did play the newest Atlus game. We played the newest mega JRPG of the year, something that is going to compete with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as everyone's favorite RPG. And it is Metaphor Re Fantazio.
When I was at Thanksgiving with my family, I'm talking to my cousin about like some of the media I've consumed because like she mostly watches TV shows, but she was wondering like the video games that I play. And I was like, yeah, I just finished this RPG recently called Metaphor Re Fantazio. And she's like, wait, metaphor? Wait, what does Re Fantazio mean? And I'm like, beats me. So I have to give like all these long RPG titles that I played. But yeah, I played Metaphor Re Fantazio. I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So I'm wondering if my cousin is like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, maybe you can answer this for me later, but I don't know why Dandadan is called Dandadan.
It's Dandadan.
Why is it called Dandadan? Either way. I at least understand the first part of the title because this is holding a mirror to our real world, as the game is centered around an election.
So you see what the issue is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the game came out in October, I believe.
It came out in October, yeah.
So we had a little bit to marinate with this one and enjoy the characters and enjoy everything. And then a real world election happened, and it kind of went, oh, that's awkward.
Yeah, like, I don't think I touched Metaphor for a week after the election. That's how sad I was about everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I cannot bring myself to, like, play Metaphor right now.
But the general premise of Metaphor is that you play as an Elda, one of the discriminated races in this game, who has a close connection to the Prince of the Kingdom. And the prince has been cursed, and now he's in a coma, and his father has just been assassinated by a brutal tyrant known as Luis. Luis is probably going to be my favorite villain of the year. This guy is amazing.
Oh, he's a dick. He's a really good dick, man. I love my villains, man. This guy is such a piece of shit.
But I love that, like, he is so confident about what he's doing, and there is no doubt about anything, and he knows the way to, like, twist your words on you and just, like, throw anything you say back at you. It's fucking amazing. One of the best villains of the year, might be the best villain of any RPG I've played in a long, long while. Luis is awesome. But, anyway, he is looking to claim the throne, but the king that he slain, the last king, had magic, and he created this weird, crazy contest So all of a sudden, a big rock floats in the sky, and it's got his face on it, the king's. And he says that for the first time ever, this will not be judged by monarchy. This will not just be lineage. We are going to have the will of the people decide who will be our future king.
Yep.
So it's up to you to win the hearts and minds of everyone around you so that you can grow bigger in popularity, so that you could potentially become the king and put an end to Luis. Although on the side, you're also trying to assassinate Luis because he may have been the one who cursed your friend the prince, and by killing Luis, the curse will go away and the prince can be restored. And along the way, you meet a motley crew of people who all join your cause, and they all awaken to a special kind of power that inexplicably has affected all of you, where you unleash your archetype, which is basically a fancy way of saying they unleash their persona.
Even though they don't really call it a persona in the game.
No.
It's just an archetype.
No, but it's got like the same setup as Persona 5, where like,
yeah,
they have this really intense, stressful moment, and then all of a sudden something awakens in them and they hear a voice. And then they rip their own heart out.
Yeah.
And their heart is turned into some kind of speakerphone. It's amazing.
And like the heart has like all of these wires or whatever. It's like very like, ugh.
Ugh. I am amazed that this game is rated T for teen, considering how gory and how violent it was at the start.
Yeah, especially with, like you said, the setup and how, like, the whole first arc is, like, developed. Especially the second arc.
Oh, yeah.
With, like, the second dungeon, like, that twist. Like, I don't know how this, like, escaped the maturity rating.
It just goes to show that when it comes to, like, the ratings boards, violence is A-okay. Sexual content, if you have a demon that is a dick demon, like Mara. Mara's been in all the Persona games. Of course you get an M rating because you have a big dick demon. But when you take that demon out of the game and you still keep like throat slitting and corpses everywhere and just all the monstrously horrible ways that people die in this thing, it's fine. Rated T for teen. The teenagers can handle this just A-okay. It's like, oh, okay.
Like, literally body parts oozing out of, like, these monsters or whatever.
Oh, people bleed out. Like, you see puddles of blood flow out of people and stuff.
You see them puss. You see blood.
Hold on. You see that puss? What?
Yeah, puss. That's, like, another term for, like, ooze.
I would say pus. I wouldn't say puss. Puss makes me think of something else.
Whatever. You know what I mean? Icky things aside from blood are seeping out of these body parts. And it's really gross. And yeah.
But, you know, it was a good jolt to the system because it was like, all right, Atlus is doing their hand at a Final Fantasy type adventure because, like, you know, this isn't modern day. This isn't post-apocalyptic the way that a lot of these Shin Megami Tensei and Digital Devil Sagas and Soul Hackers and like they always have contemporary settings, it feels like most of the time.
Yeah.
And here we have something that's just honest to God, a magical kingdom with dragons and people with pointy ears. They're not called elves. I think they're called rutissants. But they're essentially elves. You know, you got elves and all kinds of manner of creature. You get one party member who is a Ujif, which is basically like a Batman.
Like a short bunny-esque person.
Yeah. So it's a colorful fantasy world with magic and all this other stuff. And it's got punch to it. You know, the first dungeon you go to is a church that has been ransacked and everybody is murdered and dead on the floor. And it's just filled with demonic imagery. And yeah, it gets pretty intense. It gets pretty intense. But the game's friggin' fantastic. It is modeled after Persona, so it does have the calendar system.
I mean, it's the same team that produced Persona 5, 4, etc.
Yeah.
It is that same team.
Yeah. And instead of wanting to work on Persona 6, they wanted to make this game instead, which, you know, all the power to them. I think they should make something more original and more, different, because I don't know. It's like we said in the Persona 3 Reload discussion, I was getting a little tired of the all-out attack system. It was starting to grow a little thin for me.
Especially if you're traveling through Tartarus and the demands of, like, how much they want you to complete per, like, section of the game. Like, it can be tiring to go whack, 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 all-out attack. But this one's, like, a little different, because, like, you not only have your regular, like, battle system here, you can, like, change the formation of your party. You can have some people go to the front. You can command some people to go to the back and, like, shoot arrow attacks. And you can, like, switch jobs and things like that. So there was, like, a lot of variety in the mechanics, which made, like, each battle very interesting. And I don't think I got, like, as worn out versus, like, Persona 3, for example.
Nah. Essentially, the battle system is doing what every Shin Megami Tensei game does. It has, like, this press turn system where you see the 4 icons at the top right. If you pass your move, it doesn't eliminate one of those things. It just makes it smaller so that you still have 4 turns, but you can only do it once. And if you pass twice, that gets rid of a turn. And essentially, it takes the SMT battle system, but incorporates it with a Final Fantasy V 10-2 kind of job system. Like, when the characters awaken to their archetypes, they don't just get that one thing that they can do, they can switch. If you don't want to be a warrior class, you can be a mage. If you don't want to be a mage, you can be a healer. If you don't want to be a healer, you can be a gunman. There are so many different archetypes to experiment with, to switch around on the fly, that you can mix and match certain abilities with all of these different jobs, and you can build exactly the kind of fighter that you want to make. And that gives you a level of customization, a level of freedom that no SMT game, not even Digital Devil Saga really, has, that makes the battles so unique and so interesting. And I freaking adore it. I adore these battles. I think they're incredibly fun. And in the later game, when you can just start getting all of the buffs and debuffs that you want and start incorporating ways to make reflective, to reflect certain abilities and stuff, it's just, there's so much 4D chess going on in your head. There's just so many opportunities with this thing.
And, like, leveling up certain jobs, like, some of the requirements will have you level up other jobs in order to get, like, that one. That's not necessarily in the main line. So a lot of experimentation is encouraged, and you also get to learn, like, a lot of cool new abilities and stuff. So, like, I gave my main protagonist, like, I gave him a balance of things. So, like, I let him play around with, like, the healer classes for a bit to get that, like, healing magic and spells. And then I also had them level up the mage to, get some magic attacks in his repertoire. So, like, you can balance this out as much as you want to. If you want to, like, have a team with all, like, mages, that's up to you. But the great thing is that you can, like, level up jobs, and then if you're going for another one, you can take some abilities from the previous one and transfer it over to your main list, which is great. So it doesn't feel like you have to be equipped to a particular archetype in order to use that ability.
Nah.
It's great. It's good.
It's fantastic. And I like how quickly things level up as well. It's not like Final Fantasy V where you find you have to grind and grind and grind just to get warrior up to level 3 or level 4 or whatever. No, I feel like you can master a class probably in an hour. And because there are so many classes, you still feel like you're going to be mastering and mastering and mastering Lawn into the game, Lawn as it goes on. Like I was mastering classes by the end of the first dungeon, but I still felt like, okay, but now I'm on the second class. Now I'm on the advanced class of the path I'm going. And I still have all of these tools and utility that I can experiment really quickly. So, like, when you get new party members like Heizme, it doesn't take long to get them acclimated to the exact kind of role that you want them to be. If you want Heizme to be a healer with some thief kind of things, you can do that. And I just like how fast and frenetic the battles are. They never feel like they drag.
No.
And you're always making tons of levels and tons of archetype levels as you progress through the game, which I enjoy. Also, the one thing I love about battles this time around, and please keep this for the rest of Persona or whatever, if the leader character dies, if your main character, your blue-haired boy dies...
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It's not a game over.
It's like, in Persona 5, I could have everyone healed up, full SP, full HP meter, and then my lead character, Joker, gets hit by a one-hit KO attack. And that's it. That's over. Gotta load everything up again. But no. In Metaphor, it takes your entire party being wiped out to, like, get a game over.
Yeah.
And even if your main character dies, you can still fight.
And later down the line, it kind of acts like Final Fantasy X, where you can actually switch out certain party members for people in the back row. So
yeah.
You're never stuck with your initial 4 party members. If you want someone from the other side to join in and just like take over, you can do that. So in a way, you can have like all 8 of your party members doing completely different roles and completely different classes. And if you get to a situation that's like, I could use a berserker for this, pull out the berserker, boom, you got good backup there as well. But yeah, just the fact that the main character can die and he can be revived with, you know, healing spells and stuff. Yep. I'm just like, oh, thank you. I vastly prefer that. And even if he couldn't, the game is still pretty generous where, like, if you get wiped out, if you lose in a battle, you are still always given the option to just, like, immediately restart the battle from where you were.
Yeah. I never felt like anything was, like, too hard, except for, like, Final Boss aside. But,
yeah,
like, I thought the leveling was fair. I thought the bosses and the challenges were pretty fair. So I go back to the archetypes for a little bit. Even, like, if you go into battles to try and level up archetypes, there's, like, these leave items that you can get. So if you don't want to, like, level up in battle, you could just keep feeding, like, your party members these leaves to help level up their archetypes. And I used that a lot when I was when I wanted to, like, take someone from, like, the lower end of their archetype to, like, the highest class of that line.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful.
Yeah, I remember you eventually near the end of the game, you get those items that give you like 5,000, 3,000 archetype experience.
Yep.
And it was just so fun going from like level 1 to level 10.
Yeah, it's like bam. And you see how many moves they learn from that.
I just want them to have this one skill and then I'm going to move them out of it. That's all I want. Boop,
yeah.
boop, 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 done. Got it. I got a skill. Ha. They can all heal now. Hell yeah. It's fantastic. So, you know, if you like SMT and you like that turn press system, you're going to love this game because it's just that, but with a lot more customization, a lot more. And it's a little easygoing as well. Like, I find if you find SMT to be too hard of an experience, if you find it just a little too punishing, Metaphor, it can get pretty hard on the higher difficulties, certainly, but it is easier going for people who just want a more casual type of RPG, you know?
For sure.
I feel like if you just level up enough, usually you can handle whatever they throw at you.
And even then, like, if you're someone who likes leaving those dungeons and boss fights till, like, the last possible day in, like, the calendar system, I think the game is more than generous in giving you enough time to, like, hey, you could take on this bounty and get more experience, or you can space out your dungeon exploring. I never felt like I was pressed for time for anything while playing this game.
Well, honestly, when I did the game, I always made sure I cleared the dungeon first, and then I did
that's what I
clean up
did
afterward. Because I didn't know how long these dungeons were going to be, and especially with Virga Island, that dungeon goes on a lot longer than I thought it was going to go. It just kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy.
That one took me like 2 days to clear. And I was like, okay, I gotta stop here because, like, my party members are low on MP and I can't keep pushing through. So, but even then, again, still enough time to complete it.
It's also one of those things where, like, I don't know if you're like this, but as a role player, I feel like if I was actually living in that world, I would want to resolve the situation as quickly as possible and not have weeks of terror going on. I'm I'm just like, no, I have to solve it now. I can't let what's happening. These children are being abducted. I have to find out why now.
There are children being abducted, and you just want to sit in this bar and listen to this old woman's story?
Yeah.
All for imagination? You know those kids won't have any imagination anymore if they die. But look at you. You know, yeah.
Look, those kids are important, but I gotta work on my eloquence. I gotta work on my speeches, okay?
Yeah. What we're referencing is these character stat systems. So like previous Atlus games, there are different like stats that you can level up. Like in Persona 3, you could level up your charm and your academics, like things like that. But in Meta 4, there are around 5 different stats, I believe. So it's like eloquence, imagination, tolerance, courage, and there is a 5th one I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Wisdom?
Wisdom, yes.
Yeah.
So you can do various activities to level up your stats. 5 is the highest rank that you can get for each one. So that can be achieved through either like doing activities in town or like reading a book. Different things that you can do. Yeah.
That's the other interesting thing. I thought it was interesting that this has a world map and it has like this sense of traveling and progression that like a lot of Persona games don't usually have, because you're either always in Inaba, always in Tokyo. There's no traveling going on.
Yeah.
But in this game, you do have to travel to other kingdoms, and you have this big gauntlet runner machine, and it usually takes like maybe 2 or 3 days to reach its destination. And so you can't do the usual followers kind of quests or the social links that you would normally do. And so they have like these unique special kind of interactions in the gauntlet runner itself where, okay, you're traveling to a place, you're going to be in this thing for 3 days. Maybe it's a good time to raise your courage by bonding with Stroll. Maybe it's time to read a book that will raise your eloquence. Or, you know, on the off chance, maybe there is a social link that you can progress, because sometimes they only progress on the gauntlet runner. And you'll have to take a trip to a dungeon just to achieve that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting because I thought that was a unique way of like handling that. And even if you didn't want to raise your personal kingly stats, you could also like mop the floors to raise your HP, or just all of these menial tasks to give stat boosts.
Take a dump.
You could take a shit, of course. You can cook on the gauntlet runner. Anytime you find ingredients, you can come up with some kind of recipe that will, you know, give you a nice little boost in the item department.
Eureka!
I really appreciate that they got rid of the affection mechanics of the social links. What I mean by that is, just recently Persona 3 Reload came out, and they got that one guy who's like your classmate who's like really in love with his teacher. He's got a big heart-on for his teacher. And, you know, I'm trying to be a normal individual, okay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be like, dude, this is weird. This is creepy. She's not gonna date you. You're wasting your time. Give it up. But unfortunately, those are the incorrect choices.
You can't tell him to do the morally right thing. No points for you.
You have to encourage his behavior, and you have to basically agree, yeah, the teacher's fucking hot. You should bang her. And you have to lean into that because it gives you more affection points, which reduces the time it takes to rank up to the next rank. So, like, if you're following a guide, you want to say all the correct answers. That way you don't have any of these moments where it's like, oh, he's not going to rank up today, but if you spend time with him, you will gain more affinity points. So it's like, I wasted a day. This is not like that. Metaphor, if you have a chance to engage with someone, you will rank up regardless of what you say in that conversation. And I vastly, vastly appreciate that. Essentially, they've replaced the affinity system with just like, if you say something that's agreeable, you get more magla out of the conversation. And magla is used to unlock certain skills for your archetypes and to unlock archetypes in general. It's like this currency you have that you can exchange for real money. There's a guy who will take your Magla and give you cash for it. So you can maximize how much Magla you get, but when you get into a follower situation, if you can talk to somebody, they're gonna rank up regardless. And that made time management so much better, as I didn't feel like I had to consult a guide just so I didn't waste time. I just felt like I could play the game normally.
Yeah.
And everything progressed seamlessly. Like, I actually maxed out every single follower and every single kingly trait in one playthrough, which I was very satisfied with.
It is indeed possible. I didn't maximize all my followers, but I did maximize all my kingly traits.
Nice, nice. I guess the last thing to know about Metaphor is, what did you think of the story and the characters?
I thought the story was fantastic. I love how some of the themes that are very topical, like I said before, kind of the worst timing given
yeah.
the current state of our country. But like at the end of it all, the themes are understandable, and like just talking about it. If I talked about this game like a week or two after the election versus now, I would have some very intense feelings about it, because I was like, how could you have a message like this and this isn't possible? But yeah, just sitting on it for a few weeks, I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's great.
I have been thinking about it in contrast to Final Fantasy 16, because that was another medieval setting which had a lot of racism and slavery and stuff like that, where Clive was trying to break the system and trying to fix the world so that Valisthea was just like a lot better. But anyone who's seen my 16 review knows that I thought it was a pretty bleak, sad fucking game most of the time, where even the ending is also like fucking, oh, I get it, but that's sad, and man, this fucking world sucks. And Metaphor is like the absolute opposite. I felt like the ending was incredibly hopeful. I felt like when the gang get together, when you got like Hulkenberg and Stroll and Heisme and all these people joining together, it's such a great close-knit community, and you meet so many people who you improve the lives of. You know, I love the little girl Maria.
Oh, she's my favorite. I love her.
She doesn't understand why people are racist. She doesn't understand why this boy living on the street is treated like absolute dirt when he's just hungry and he didn't do anything wrong. And you kind of have to sort of inform her, like, this is how the world is, but we can be better than that, and we can help this boy, and we can actually help others and stuff like that. And I just find that it's so cozy and it's so optimistic about what we could do to make a better world. And it's a great reflection of real life. You know, it is a reflection of like, look, no matter what you do, there's going to be people who support Luis, and there's just nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
You know,
it's really sad.
People are going to judge you for things that you didn't do. You know, it's like, you're an Elda. Get out of here, you filthy Elda. Well, what the hell is the problem?
You filthy Elda.
What the hell's the problem? I'm just a guy. There's nothing. I didn't do anything. But still, I just love all of those followers systems, like all those followers that you interact with. And I also just thought that the story itself had some pretty interesting twists. I like the idea that for a good chunk of the story, you're choosing to cozy up to Luis, to try and be one of his henchmen so that you can get closer to the guy and ultimately kill him.
Yeah.
So it gives you an ample opportunity to interact with all of his minions and all of the people who choose to follow him, and get more screen time with the villain. He's not just like Vayne from Final Fantasy XII, who's hanging out in his throne room most of the game.
Oh gosh. Having like these dramatic monologues, I guess.
Yeah, monologues with his own people, but never the heroes, you know?
Yeah, now that you mention it, it is cool that like you're constantly in interaction and communication with the main antagonist like the entire game.
Yeah. There's some great scenes there too. Like, I love that moment in the ballroom scene where Stroll just comes up to him and just plainly asks, "Did you destroy this village?" And Luis goes,
yeah.
And Luis goes, yes, I did.
Just like with no resentment or no hesitation. Like, yeah, I did that. So what?
And he justified, like, I'm not saying it's a good justification, but he does justify it as though, like, look, humans were going to come one way or the other. I just had to do what would get rid of them quicker. And so, like, he doesn't care about the loss of not human life, but the loss of life around him. He doesn't care about anything that happened to those villagers. But as far as he's concerned, this did protect the kingdom. It was for the greater good, and he has no regrets about doing it, which is what makes him such a compelling, fantastic villain. Not only because of that ideology, but also the performance by the guy who played him is fucking phenomenal. Like, such good charisma and such a fantastic bad guy. I was always glued to the screen whenever Luis showed up.
You know how I like my bad guys, huh?
I know you like Rufus Shinra.
Uh-huh.
Would you say Luis is very much like Rufus?
Yeah. Except Luis would, like, I don't know, have more no regrets about anything. That guy's just so cold-hearted. He does not give a shit.
Yeah. But he has so much charisma, you understand why people are still following him and want him to be their king.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, political machinations, because, like, not only is Luis doing his thing, but then there's the Sanctifex and the church and all of those people who are scheming for their own ends. So it's like there are multiple villains. It's not just like, oh, we got to help the church because the church is opposed to Luis. Well, no, the church is also full of assholes who are scheming for their own self-interests, and maybe we shouldn't exactly blindly give them power either, you know. People die, and alliances shift, and revelations are made. We learn things about the world that you're in, and it was just compelling from start to finish. You know, I was glued to the screen. Yeah.
And, like, I could say so much more with spoilers, but I don't want to spoil anything too significant.
Yeah. It does live up to the name, though. I feel like what it has to say about fantasies and reality and what fantasy does to reality and vice versa is an interesting commentary on at least writing stories, and or at least what the power of stories can do.
And as a writer, some of those themes hit me hard. I'm like, dang, yeah, I thought of it that way.
Like, even a good story can inspire real action in the real world, you know? Mm-hmm. And, yeah, and it's like all the voice acting was top notch. It doesn't have any of those cringy, awkward moments that a lot of Persona games can have. Because, like, there are certain elements of older Persona games that haven't aged well in terms of, like, LGBT characters, where they're kind of, like, weird and predatory. And this game doesn't have a romance system. So, like, there's no, I'm gonna hook up with the teacher. There's none of that stuff. It's just a straightforward. So yeah, there's gonna be some people who are like, wait, there's no waifu? You can't date anybody? I'm not picking this game up.
I mean, they're characters that by design would make great waifus. It's just you can't romance them.
And I didn't care, personally. I did not care. I enjoyed the story that they were telling. I enjoyed learning more about the main protagonist. I like the fact that the main protagonist actually talks.
Yeah, you can hear his voice.
The most you'll hear in Persona 3, 4, and 5 is like, you know, Jack Frost! They'll just summon their persona and yell persona a whole bunch.
Let me show you my true power. Or something like that. Something to that extent. Let's go. All right.
Yeah.
I'll just save here.
Every time you picked an option, he said it out loud with VO. And he would have his own moments where he would go into a speech of his own that wasn't prompted by the player. And I think, like, cool. They gave him a little personality. They gave him a little agency as opposed to the blank slates that you're usually playing in these games. I like that. The only thing is that sometimes the pacing is a little off. It's like I said before, I didn't like the length of Virga Island's dungeon. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And the final boss, I know we both had frustrations about this. We're like, you think you're finally going to take on the bad guy. You think you're finally going to end this and reach the climax. And then it's like, okay, but here's a new dungeon with a whole bunch of bosses you have to face. And if you don't fight the bosses, the final boss is going to be even harder. So hope you enjoy the next hour or two that you have to do going through this dungeon. I'm like, we were at the end. We were there. We were there.
But I mean, aside from that, the game pretty much sticks the landing. It's one of my favorites of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think it's my favorite game of this year, but it is up there.
Yeah, I still give the nod to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because I just think that is such a fun-ass game. As do I. Mm-hmm. I just still think about moments in that game all the time because it's just so crazy. But this was great. If you enjoyed SMT's battle system or you like Persona and you want something new and fresh, this game is it. It's probably my favorite Atlus game of the year. I liked it more than Persona 3 Reload.
Yeah, same.
And I definitely do enjoy it more than SMT 5, personally speaking.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely recommend Metaphor. Go get it.
Hell yeah.
It's like, it's so easy to like get swarmed into like the disappointment of real life, especially with what's been going on in the country. And like Clement said, Metaphor's message is very optimistic. And I hope that's the direction that we go in. But wouldn't you say that sometimes life can be a little weird, having those connections between media and real life? And wouldn't you say that life is sometimes strange in that regard?
The queen of segues.
All the segues I kind of just bullshit out of my head. I don't know if I'd be good at improv.
I never want you to stop. Never stop. I love it.
Okay.
But yes, we got a new entry in the Life is Strange franchise. We got Life is Strange Double Exposure this October. And the big selling point for this one, Max Caulfield's back.
Max, my girl.
The protagonist of the original game is back, and after 10 or so years, she is no longer a teenager and now a full adult. So it's a completely new era of her life, where yet again, she is foisted with powers after a horrible tragedy, because that's just how these things go. It's going to be hard talking about this game without spoilers.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I think talking with you earlier, we both agreed that this game was kind of disappointing.
Yeah. It was. Mm-hmm.
I've played every entry in Life is Strange. I played 1, Before the Storm, 2, True Colors. I love them all. I think it's a great series. I would recommend it to anybody. But Double Exposure for me is like the first rare misstep. I think this is like, it's not as detailed, it's not as well thought out, it's not as satisfying as all of the other games have been. And the ending certainly gives me mixed feelings.
Oh boy.
The ending was certainly like a, what? We're doing this? Okay, whatever.
Up to episode 2, I was liking where they were going. Like, episode 1 was great because we could see Max back, and then she's with her friends. And then, like, all the build-up from then and into the end of the second episode, like, I was hooked on it. I was like, yo, okay, I see where we're going with this. It's interesting. Then it still kind of holds on through episode 3, and then 4 onwards, this is kind of but you can talk about your impressions early on of the game first.
I thought it started out pretty darn good. It felt like every Life is Strange game, you know? It was nice to have Hannah Tell, the voice actress behind Max, back to reprise her role. And I swear, the one thing I will say about Max in this game that I love, she is so snarky and she is so witty. Like, this is the best her character has ever been written. It felt like every time someone had something to diss her with, or anytime someone had anything to say to her, she had such a great list of comebacks for all of it. It was amazing. I think they wrote her very well.
Yeah, that's my highest compliment of the game. Like, nothing wrong with how she portrayed Max. Like, it is great to see her back and, like, grown up and develop the personality that she has. Like, my issues with the game don't have to do with, like, that at least, which I'm grateful about.
Yeah, it's not the characterization that's the problem. I don't hate the characterization. Like, even some of the acting, I loved, without spoiling too much, there's this great campfire scene between two characters at the beginning of episode 4 that I was glued to the screen by. I was really entranced by that conversation, and I was really interested in where the story was going. And I think the acting and the way people talk in this game is still pretty good. There's an interesting cast of characters here that could be really entertaining if they were given more to do. I think one thing I don't like about this game is that my choices always felt like they had no impact and they didn't mean anything by the end.
That was one of my largest complaints about the game. Because, like, compare it to the first game, where some of your choices may affect, like, how characters are presented, or if the characters are even there for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And, like, knowing that I had that impact is wild. It's like, oh, well, I'm more invested in the story because who knows if my decision is going to, like, affect, you know, the rest of the playthrough. And who knows how different it is compared to, like, my playthrough or Clement's playthrough or another friend's playthrough. Like, part of the fun of it is, like, comparing your results to each other and seeing, like, what you did do or what you didn't do or what the logic of thinking was behind that and seeing that play out in the game itself. And I just feel like that wasn't present in this game right here, which sucks.
There were so many moments where I was just like, oh, that's going to bite me back in the ass that I did that. Oh boy, I can't wait to see how that pays off. And then it didn't.
And nothing just follows through.
And I was like, that character could have been a big deal. I thought we were setting something up with that character. Like, there's a podcaster who's trying to dig dirt on Max. And first, the premise of the game, I guess we should get to that first. Mm-hmm. Max's best friend, Sophie, dies. She is shown to have been shot, and it's unclear who did it. She was murdered. And in her grief, Max develops the power to transport to an alternate timeline, one where Sophie did not die. So you have two of the same location. You have one where Sophie has died and the world is reacting to that, and one where nothing happened and she's completely fine. And through the L1 button, you can actually go to these little portals to split the timelines open and jump into the other one, and you can actually see the comparisons of what's happening in one timeline compared to another by pushing the R1 button. And I like that, you know, when Sophie dies, nobody puts up Christmas decorations. Nobody wants to, because this is a bleak mood. Tragedy has struck. Nobody's in the mood for holiday cheer, you know?
No.
And so you'll notice when you're hopping between the worlds that, like, it's a lot more festive in the world where she's alive. And in some instances, maybe someone is drinking more, and you'll notice more liquor bottles hanging around because Sophie died. Maybe you'll notice that the place has been trashed. Maybe there's signs of someone's grief. Like, I enjoyed the aspect of me trying to be a detective at first and trying to figure out who could possibly have killed her, because I'm just examining clues and I'm examining how people behave and I'm examining what is going to change now that she's alive or now that she's dead, and what is the difference between these worlds. Like, I thought that was compelling, even if as a power it wasn't as satisfying as rewinding back in the original game. But it was unique. It was different. So anyway, the paparazzi girl, the podcaster girl, she's inferring about Sophie's death, and she's trying to dig dirt through Max, and she's trying to dig up, like, negative dirt and trying to get, like, oh, you know, she wasn't all that. She was kind of a bad person. She kind of had a lot of skeletons in her closet, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, being a loyal friend and thinking that this was a bit of a ghoul, I'm just like, fuck you, get out of here.
Yeah, get out.
Get the fuck out of here, podcaster. And she sends me a text saying that, like, this isn't over. I will get my revenge.
And so you think an interaction like that would have consequences for, like, I don't know, building relationships with other characters or affect anything else in the story, but then it just never happens and doesn't follow through. No.
It's like an immediate comparison would be like the podcaster is kind of like Victoria from the original game.
Yeah.
And there were so many things you could do to Victoria to get her to warm up to Max or to hate Max or to get her killed near the end because she could die potentially. Not guaranteed. What your choices could get her killed at the very end of the game. And there's just none of that. You know, like podcaster kind of disappeared and blended into the background for most of the game. There was one time where she wanted to check up on her friend Reggie, but then I felt like that was the last I ever saw of her. And I'm like, well, whatever happened to that revenge?
Yeah.
What happened to that revenge you were going to give me? Where was that?
I know. Or even like another scenario where things happen, because again, I don't want to spoil like everything that leads up to this moment, but you are put in a position where obviously because of your friendship with Safi, you're close with Safi's mom, who is the head of the university that everyone's attending. And so Max and Safi's mom have like an awkward moment. And in my playthrough, she ends up like cutting Max off after that conversation where she's like feeling disdain towards Max. She doesn't really like her after what Max does in this particular scenario. And so at the end of that episode, you get a mess. You when you look at your stats, you see that like Safi's mom is now more distrusting of you. And I'm like, okay, I see. So like maybe it'll be harder to get stuff from her, or maybe our interactions are going to be more cold going forward. But no, that does not happen.
No. And, you know, it's just one of those things that, like, I know what Deck 9 is capable of because I've seen their last game, True Colors. And True Colors, you know, there are lots of choices that you could make that could just absolutely destroy a person. You know, the way you manipulate their emotions can backfire in a major way.
Oh, yeah.
But it was also more than that. It was like, I just think about all of the fun little side activities that were going on in that game where, like, you play a game of foosball with someone, and you actually have a mini game where you play foosball with that friend. The LARPing segment.
Oh, the LARPing segment was great.
What they do in episode 3 of True Colors is so fucking fun. And I was like in love with that chapter. And I just wanted to like replay it as soon as I finished it. It was just so great. I just think that there was so much more creativity, imagination on hand. Whereas I don't think much of anything fun really happens in Double Exposure. There wasn't like a chapter that I loved more than others. There wasn't like, oh, I love this chapter.
No.
I love this episode. I love this one.
The more you talk about it, the more it's pissing me off. Oh my gosh. Like, so much dropped potential here.
No, really. It's like I've seen what Life is Strange can be. I can pinpoint why I love episode 2 more than the other episodes. I can pinpoint why I love episode 3 more than the other episodes. They all have these key moments that I adore that are just fantastic. It's like, oh, this is the greatest episode. This is the one where Chloe performs in a play in Before the Storm, which is, again, Deck 9. They did that. And so they always had this fun... I don't know, they just had these fun set pieces before, and I just don't think Double Exposure has any of that. Unless you count the ending, which just really feels like a rehash of what happened at the end of 1 and True Colors, really.
The ending of Double Exposure?
Yeah, that whole final episode and just like
First
how
of all,
it builds.
You compare the ending of Double Exposure to 1. No. Insulting.
No.
Pathetic.
No.
Inexcusable.
Not nearly as good, no.
No.
But it's similar, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then, not to give it away, but I when I found out the identity of the killer, it raised more questions than it did answers, and by the end of the game, I'm still not entirely sure why the murder happened.
Yeah, like
genuinely.
This game is advertised as a murder mystery, and even in the marketing, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna find who the murderer is," and so naturally, it should take like the entirety of the 5 episodes to figure out who it is, right? But then, because of what they do, it just veers away from that, and it's more of like a meta commentary of the game and the world building within itself. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Like, there's no rhyme or reason as to why one thing will happen and then another thing will happen afterwards. Sometimes it feels like there are scenes missing where, like, you feel like something tense is about to happen between these two characters, and then all of a sudden, okay, now we have a completely different situation, and now she has a gun. And it's like, why did that happen?
Yeah.
I don't even know why that happened. Even just the presentation of it all. Like, I said I liked the dialogue scene at the start of episode 4, but I didn't like the bar scene at the end of episode 4 because...
Oh my god, don't remind me.
There is something important happening. There's an important conversation happening, a call out, and it's like, this should be a major event. I was reminded of True Colors and the end of that game because a very similar event happens at the end of True Colors. But in True Colors, it's not like there were people chatting amongst themselves and you could hear like the audio of all the bar patrons just like chatting, which is what happens in Double Exposure. So it's like something important's happening and all you hear is, I mean, I'm like, would you shut up? He's saying something important.
I know. It doesn't make sense. Especially for the gravity of the situation that happens during that scene. I'm like, I wouldn't be like shutting up. I'd be like, whoa, I'm pulling out my phone and I'm going to put it up on social media on TikTok or something. Like,
I know.
What?
It just felt like there was no dramatic flair to that moment at all. And it really should be like the biggest event of the episode. It should be like, oh my God, we're finally exposing the truth about what happened. And this don't give it the lip service that it deserves.
And then there's one thing that a particular character does during this scene, and I'm like, what? After everything we go through with your character arc, that's what you do? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Is it Vin?
Yes, it's Vin.
Fuck Vin.
I'm like, what?
Vin, you're the worst.
Oh my god.
But, it was also something I was thinking of watching another person stream this game. I realized that there was this really stupid moment that I didn't think of anything of when I was playing it, but then I thought about it and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the plan is we want to distract someone so that we can tamper with a projector.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The problem is we don't know how to destroy the projector so that it can be fixed. Because we don't want to destroy it, we just want to tamper with it.
No.
But we know Moses in both timelines, and we can talk to Moses in the dead timeline and give him the situation and say, like, look, if I wanted to tamper a projector, what would I do? And for some reason, they come up with this bizarre system where, okay, I'm going to explain the instructions to you from my timeline, and you can listen to me from the other timeline and hear what I say out loud in the bar and just operate on the projector right there. And I'm like, or you could write it down on a notepad.
Yeah.
You could write it in a piece of paper because it's been established that Max can take items between the dimensions. She can take it between the timelines. It's how you solve many of the puzzles. Why don't you just give me instructions on how to disrupt the projector? I will take those instructions and read it as I do it. Instead, you have him obviously looking like an idiot to anyone who's in that bar, going like, oh boy, I sure hope we don't dislodge the bolts from the screws and do like, I hope we don't raise the frequency to this number. It's like, oh my God, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you just write it down? It's so much easier. It doesn't, whatever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think they just wanted to show off like, oh hey, guess what? Max can communicate across timelines through like this telepathy thing. But yeah, logistically, it would make much more sense to have the instructions written down. Or maybe they're like little pictures that he drew and Max was like, okay, let me match this picture with the projector system, you know?
Yeah. Either way, it's really goofy. And I found out that as we talked about one decision we made, and we split on it, which was cooperating with the cop or not. I thought it was going to raise suspicion and get me in trouble if I didn't cooperate with him, so I agreed to help him out. And you said, fuck the police.
Yeah, I said fuck the police because my friend is like, first of all, my friend isn't white, so like, what does it look like for me to like turn him over to the cops, man? Like, come on.
I didn't see it as turning him over. I just thought it was like...
But it's also like, my friend's looking at me and he's like, look, I gotta support my friend.
Yeah.
ACAB, I'm gonna deny. But even, like, either of our decisions didn't matter. That's the thing! None of it mattered!
Because then we talked about what happened afterwards, and the same thing happened. It didn't matter what our choice was. And that character disappears just as quickly. He doesn't stick around for episodes 4 and 5. Spoiler.
No!
And I'm
there is no follow-up, and that pissed me off so much.
So I'm like, well, what was the point then? What was the point of guilting me? Moses was really disappointed in me.
The point is, the two of us had very rational, understandable, like, you know, thought processes in whether to agree or disagree with this cop guy. And none of it mattered in the end.
No.
Can we never see him again after episode 3?
It's that disconnect and the fact that
gosh.
So many things are under-delivered, underperformed, and there's just something about the game that's just not up to the standards of the other Life is Strange adventures. And I feel like a lot of people are also going to be picking this up because they think, like, I love the first one. I love Before the Storm. And right off the bat, you know, you can actually decide which of the canonical endings is canon for the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this is too big of a spoiler because, you know, it's been out for like 9, almost 10 years now. It might be 10 years, actually. I think episode 1 came out in 2014.
Yeah.
It has been 10 years since the original. And look, that game ends with a choice where you either save the town that you're living in or you save the girl you've been trying to save the whole entire game, Chloe. And the relationship between Max and Chloe is such an integral part of Life is Strange. It's the most important theme of that whole entire game. Of course, the decision hinges on that. But, you know, in all the future games, they've still been carrying over that choice every single time. Like Life is Strange 2 boots up and it's like, oh, what did you do at the end of Life is Strange 1? And the story will reflect that. You know, in episode 1, they'll visit the crater where Arcadia Bay is.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just going to be like, I want my Chloe. I'm going to keep her alive. She's not in this game, guys. I'm sorry.
She is not. She's not in this game.
She's not showing up. Even if you save her, she's not showing up, not even for a voice line, like not even for like a little dream cameo. She's not in this game because the only way the writers could possibly make all of this work without having to make 2 separate games is, okay, well, we got to maintain a status quo that makes sense to both endings. And if she's dead in one ending, she has to be a non-character then because, well, someone could play and then she's dead. And how do we... You have to make an entirely new game to incorporate her into the thing. But unfortunately, it makes their friendship fall apart, and there's a reason Max isn't hanging out with Chloe anymore, and that just, like, really rubs people the wrong way, because it's just like, they would never. After what she did, they would never split up. This is bullshit, you know? Which pissed a lot of people off.
Like, I'm not as big of a Pricefield person compared to, like, other people. Like, I love their dynamic. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the dynamic that they have. But at the end of the first game, I chose Arcadia Bay. That's kind of controversial within the fan base.
Too. I would describe myself as a Pricefield person, but like morality wise, and just because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Max has to learn a lesson for all her time travel shenanigans. It just made more sense to save the town. Sorry.
But having said all of that, come on. The studio gotta know how people feel about Chloe and Max. Come on, like, you weren't expecting some backlash doing the decision that you did there. Like, they had to have known.
It's like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. It's like, you know, there is a Life is Strange comic book, actually. And do you know what the premise of the comic book is?
Yeah, it's like, if You saved Chloe and Arcadia Bay is like destroyed.
Yeah, that's the plot of the comic book. When we follow that storyline and we follow the further adventures of Max and Chloe after that event. And sure, it might not be canon to what I did in my game, but it's an interesting story all by itself because it's actually following up on something. This game is not really interested in Arcadia Bay. It's just more interested in Max getting away from that situation and moving on with her life. So there's not a lot of contemplation references. I don't know. It could have easily been a completely different protagonist, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It could have.
And in some ways it might have been better to be a different protagonist.
Even when Arcadia Bay is mentioned, like, it doesn't really significantly play into, like, the events of the story. Like, when Cop Guy comes over to investigate Max, like in episode 2 or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, you're involved in this whole thing with Safi, and you are also involved in what happened with Arcadia Bay. That's a little suspicious, don't you think?
It was especially stupid in our pathway. Because, like,
yeah.
I would understand the second one because the town got wiped off the map, and that would be like, I saw some weird shit happen, and now I hear about this town getting wiped out. That at least is understandable. But it was so fucking stupid for her to be like, so, you know that girl who died in that high school bathroom? I think you might have had something to do with that. And I'm like, that's a reach.
It's been 10, even if something happened, it's like, it's been 10 years. What's the statute of limitations?
Apparently,
like, it doesn't make sense.
No, but apparently Chloe is the only one who's died in Arcadia Bay. Nobody died after her.
Yeah.
And it obviously had to be Max that Chloe died. It couldn't just be a fucking random thing where a teenager died to a gunshot from a guy. There was a guy got arrested for that crime. His name is Nathan Prescott. What are you talking about? Why don't
you don't understand.
Nathan?
You don't understand. Nathan Prescott is an instrument from the government. They want you to believe that he killed Chloe.
There's so many contrived things about the story that just, like, when you actually start talking about it, you're just like, that's so stupid.
Yeah, the more that I talk about it, or the more that we've talked about it here, the more I'm like, oh yeah, that's even stupider than I thought it originally was.
That's ultimately why I think this game is disappointing. It's like, it's not even entertaining in the way that the others are. It's just, like, it's not even like so bad I can laugh at it. It's just a misstep. It's so underdeveloped, and it's underdeveloped because of what they tease at the end of the game. This is sequel baiting. I think, sorry, spoiler, but this is sequel baiting for another Life is Strange game. This is part 1 of a continuing story. And I did not like that direction because it felt like it shortchanged the story that we bought, the story that I was playing in my PlayStation 5, so that we could build up to something greater, so that we could build up to, okay, but this next game's going to be amazing. And I'm just like, but what about the game I just bought? The game I just bought is underdeveloped, and it's not very good, and I wouldn't recommend it if people are interested in Life is Strange. If you're interested in Life is Strange, check out the first one, check out 2, check out True Colors. Hell, even Before the Storm is fine as a standalone game.
Yeah.
But Double Exposure didn't do it for me.
It sucks because the original game is one of my favorite games of all time. And to go from the quality of that to this was just so bad.
So yeah, that is a pass on Life is Strange Double Exposure. Sorry, guys. I
give it an X.
An X?
Yeah, do not play an X.
Oh.
Why can't these paranormal abilities make sense? Well, at least Max's parallel, timeline ability was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of this anime I've been watching lately.
Oh?
Yeah, Dan.
Or as I call it, Dan. Why is it called Dan?
So Dan, the title is explained later on from what I was looking up, but I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm just gonna
Ah.
leave it.
It's a spoiler, okay. Because, I only know it as the banger theme song. The dun 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 dun
Yes,
dun 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 dun.
that's what I know it as too, because the theme song for that show is like amazing. It actually made it as one of my top tracks on my YouTube music recap.
Oh.
That's how good it was.
God damn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is like the first time ever on C Squared that we've decided to cover an anime.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm not sure, yeah. I'd have to look back. But I think you would be correct that this is the first time. What is your experience with newer anime now?
Oh, that's going to be an easy thing to describe. I don't have much experience. I have a gigantic list of things that I have not seen. Let me go through the list. I have yet to see JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Bitch.
I have yet to see Chainsaw Man.
Bitch.
I have yet to see One Piece.
Bitch. Even though I haven't really finished One Piece either. It's a long show.
What else is there?
Spy Family?
I have yet to see Spy Family.
Bitch.
I watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid. I did not watch Dragon Ball Super. I have not seen Dragon Ball Super yet.
So I guess you're not watching Daima either now?
No, I'm not watching Daima right now.
And Daima's been pretty great so far.
I just, at some point after high school, I didn't see anime much anymore because I wasn't watching regular TV. And regular TV is where I mostly found anime. That's where I saw Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Samurai Pizza Cats, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, although I didn't watch those shows, but I knew they were there. And, I was always aware of like card captors and stuff like that, but I live in a small town and we don't exactly have an anime shop. We don't have a manga shop. We don't have anything to purchase all of that extra material.
Y'all are kind of lacking in that department. Meanwhile, I can just drive like several minutes out to like several places where I could just probably find things.
Yeah.
But you haven't even seen like My Hero Academia?
I've not seen My Hero Academia.
Damn.
But the thing is, I could probably recognize a lot of these characters. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the one with the frog girl, right?
Yes.
That's the one with the roided out Homelander guy, right?
Yes.
That's the one with the creepy girl with the smile. The fucking, what I like to call the incel smile, because every incel uses that display picture on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I recognize it. I can see at a glance. Oh yeah, that's a JoJo's character, for sure. I know. But do I know anything about the story or any of the characters? No. I don't know what My Hero Academia is even about.
But not even like anime movies?
We saw The Boy and the Heron at one time.
We did.
So that was nice.
It was very, very nice.
Actually, one thing I just thought of, I don't normally watch anime, but you did say that this had the same animators that were responsible for Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Science Saru, yes.
So I did see that.
Yeah, and that was very good.
It was great. I loved Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. We've talked about it on C Squared before. But in terms of like traditional anime, I just know that you were watching it. Everyone on the internet was talking about it. And I do get drawn in by characters that I find very cute and attractive. And I'm like, oh, who's that girl in the pink sweater? I'm curious about this show now. So I thought you would add to C Squared if I joined in on your interests and see what this anime is all about. And here we are.
Yeah.
I'm a normie, so if I get weird shit wrong, then sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a gamer. I spend all my time with video games and not anime.
Traditionally, new anime and even continuing animes, if they're like popular enough, they're released in like seasons. So like every winter you'll get a new batch of anime, and every spring you'll get a new batch.
Yeah.
Dan Da Dan is, if I recall correctly, from the current fall batch of animes that have come out. And so really like maybe 2 to 3 times a year you hear people like talk about really, really like significantly popular anime. I think the other anime that is popular this year is Dungeon Meshi or Delicious in Dungeon.
I have not seen Dungeon Meshi.
But I'm sure you've seen Art of Delicious in Dungeon like on the internet because it's been super popular.
I always see people getting thirsty over the girl in blue, and some chicken lady.
Chicken lady.
Am I wrong?
Yeah. You're not wrong, but like I lost my train of thought. But I mean, like, the community for that show in particular is, like, really big.
Yeah.
So, like, about, again, a few times a year, you'll get anime that really bursts out in popularity through that.
In general, I just see where the winds are blowing, what my social media feed is gushing about. And if they're gushing about Spy Family, and then I see the mother character in her hot, sexy black dress, I go, that's intriguing. But, otherwise, I don't catch up. I never saw Attack on Titan either, and I've never seen Sword Art Online. Just two animes that popped in my head. But anywho, tell me the story of Dan Da Dan. What is this show all about?
Dan Da Dan takes place at a high school environment. So it's about this girl named Momo, and she's in high school, and she believes in, like, the paranormal, ghosts, that kind of thing. But she doesn't believe in aliens. She kind of thinks it's bullshit. Like, the existence of aliens is absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
Then there's another classmate, Ken Takagura, throughout the show is called Okarun. He believes in aliens, but not ghosts. So they believe in, like, opposite things, and they think they're, you know, each other's passionate beliefs are ridiculous.
They're not really friends before this. They just sort of, like, bump into each other, and somehow their ideologies come spilling out, like, right away.
Yeah. So they were like, you know what? I'll take you on. Let's just go visit each other's separate places and just see whether aliens or ghosts really do exist. So what ends up happening is, I saw the first episode, Momo actually gets abducted by aliens.
As you do.
And then Okarun gets possessed by these ghosts and spirits. So they see each other's beliefs in real life, and they realize, oh shit, maybe this guy or this girl was onto something. And now they must team together and use each other's abilities to just fight the paranormal and other various enemies.
Yeah, the whole premise of the story also is that, like, Okarun has been possessed by a demon, and because of her medium powers, like, Momo has to sort of hang around him to make sure he doesn't just go full on demon. Like, she's the only thing keeping the monster at bay. And she has this grandmother who is a spirit medium. And I loved the initial, like, flashbacks where she's like, I don't really believe in that stuff. And, like, she does believe in it, but she doesn't, like, take it seriously the way she does later.
Yeah.
And her grandmother's always, like, trying to get her to do weird things, like, she has to wear, like, this weird fucking thing going to school that embarrasses the hell out of her. And I like in all those flashbacks, we keep seeing that, like, her grandmother is just this very typical image of a grandmother. She's, you know, a little overweight. She's a little homely, but a big smile on her face. Just a lovely old woman. She's like, oh, Momo,
your typical normal grandma.
Your normal grandma. And then we meet her in episode 2.
And oh my gosh, she's like this hot grandma, man. I'm like, damn, what?
She is a gilf. What the hell?
She's a gilf.
And she's got, like, this surly, like, bad language kind of demeanor where she's, like, kind of cynical and just kind of like, oh, you stupid idiot. What'd you do this time? Oh, God.
As all gilfs usually do.
Hold down your pants, kid. I want to see your testicles now. Because when you get possessed by ghosts, apparently you lose your penis.
Yes, that is actually the premise. You're trying to find what happened to Okarun's parts.
And we should say that as we're covering this today, Netflix has uploaded 9 episodes. The 10th one is coming out in 2 days. And we've only seen the first 9 episodes. We haven't seen the whole arc of the story. We don't know where it's going. We don't know, like, the ultimate end result. So we're just sort of covering it as it's happening, not as it's finished.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It's very wacky. And, like, from people who have read the manga, because I believe the manga has been going around since, I want to say, like, 2021?
Okay.
2020, maybe. I'm pretty sure it's 2021. It's been going around for a few years, like, in Japan. But apparently, like, a lot of those people are pretty happy with the anime adaptation so far. Even to the point where, like, they can't believe, especially, I saw this compliment with episode 1 a lot, like, the scenery in the backgrounds and stuff, like, really popped out from what's presented in the manga.
Okay. Like, does it keep all of the animations, the faces, the inflections intact?
Yes. It keeps a lot of those intact, but, like, it does even more to pop it out because, you know, you're working with animation as a medium. You could do a lot more because, you know, it's animation versus, like, something that you would draw, like, in a book and have in a manga.
Yeah.
So, like, you could take several panels of, like, a fight scene and then make an absolutely fucking amazing sequence with, like, classical music mixed in, like they did in episode 4, I believe. But, yeah.
Episode 4 was fucking crazy. Like, the way they try to dispel the ghost, the spirit yokai, the Turbo Granny, as they call her.
Yes. Her name is actually Turbo Granny.
The way they dispel her and the way they try to get her out of Okaroon is just, like, the most ridiculous fucking thing in the world. Like, you think it's going one way, and then it just turns into, like, a crazy light speed race through the town as a big fucking monster chases them, and it's just, like, everything in the city is just getting bulldozed and knocked over, and it's all kinds of crazy.
And the animation is so fantastic in that, with the music too, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Like, you gotta imagine it's probably gone a little beyond what the manga is, because that just looked fucking amazing. Like, even the moments where she's, like, flying through the city skyscape, and she's, like, way above the city, I just remember thinking that shot was, like, insane.
Yeah.
It's a very high energy show, and I really like the humor. I like the goofy faces and the condescending attitude, and just, like...
It's like what you were saying, where anything could be, like, a reaction images. You know how many reaction images the show has spawned? Just from, like, all the stills?
This thing is built to be made into an animated GIF. There's so many faces where she just, like, puts her lips together and... Look at me, I'm Okaroon, you started that. That first episode is fucking crazy. I love when animes just, like, escalate in the first episode, where things just get so ridiculous, not even 15 minutes in, to the point where she's getting abducted, not just by aliens, but fucking aliens who want to fucking impregnate her, and they strip her down to her underwear in a chair, and they got, like, these weird knife penises. I don't know how the hell that's supposed to help with the whole fucking thing, but good lord.
It's like it starts, and then it just... gets really, really, like, off the walls wild. Especially when there's so many anime that's produced now that it's, like, so hard to, like, stand out when you have maybe around 20, 30 maybe series debuting during each season.
Uh-huh.
So that, like, it's harder to, like, have those standouts every year, but Dandadan's definitely one of them.
Yeah, and it's not just, like, a wacky, zany comedy that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's also... It's got a little bit of heart there. I am actually digging the romance that's going on between Momo and Okaroon.
They're great. I love, like, I love how it starts with, like, how they have conflicting views with each other, and then Momo's like, I can't possibly be falling for him, can I? And it's like, oh shit, yes you are. Oh no.
Like, she's a brash, popular girl. He's a big dork nerd who's everyone makes fun of. And I love that moment after episode 4 where they just had this crazy shit happen to them. Longest day of their lives. And then they're just back in school and they think everything's fine. Like, the show's over. There's no more ghosts. Everything's fine. And they keep trying to find each other. Like, we keep cutting to her, looking for him, cutting to him, looking for her. Oh, maybe they're in the cafeteria. Oh, they couldn't be the cafeteria. Maybe they're here. Oh, no, not there. And they keep, like... missing each other just briefly. Like, they're going through the crowd of people and they literally just, like, slide by each other without knowing. And I just like that anticipation of just, like, they want to see more of each other. They're looking for each other, but they don't want to seem desperate, and they don't want to seem like they care too much, but there's still that, like, God, I miss that person. I want to hang out with them some more. Fuck.
That's too real. It's like finding excuses to see each other.
Yeah. Coming up with reasons.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of stuff is really cute. And just like when they introduced this character, Ira, who throws a wrench into the machinery, let's say, that also exposes more of like, no, I am jealous. What the hell is he doing with her? Why is he wasting all of his time with her? Fuck.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's the power of pink-haired characters.
It's always the pink-haired ones you gotta watch out for.
Yeah, right?
It's after Ira starts confronting them, and then they get exposed to another ghost who has been following her, and they defeated the ghost, and then we learn more about that ghost's backstory and what exactly created them to be in the position that they are. And it takes a big chunk of the episode. It's practically the whole episode, and yeah, that shit was heavy. That shit was like both beautiful and sad, and
it's really sad.
The way that her power and what happens to her gets incorporated to Ira was quite touching, quite impactful, I must say.
It does take like the whole episode, but like you get so much backstory, and it's really sad, and like the animation is so beautiful. It's really like intense.
Yeah.
Well, before that I was like, oh, Ira always butting in, but at the end I'm like, Ira, no, my sweetie, come here. No.
I like the goofy ways in which being a spirit medium can like block out ghosts and stuff, because like they go to visit her grandma's place and she's a spirit medium, so her whole temple is like sort of protected by these barriers, and as soon as like Okarun fucking like enters through the gates, he immediately sets on fire.
Yeah.
Has to dip in the pond. I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's a good show. It's not over yet, so I don't know the ultimate outcome of the story or where this is going. I don't know if poor Okarun's going to get his balls back, but you need your balls. I'm sorry, but I am intrigued to see where it's going, and I will continue on with the show as it goes along. So maybe we'll have an update and let people know how we feel about this show.
Maybe. Yeah, it's one of the most popular anime of this year. So if you haven't checked it out yet, it's on Netflix. And yeah, maybe we'll discuss more anime on here.
Oh boy.
Who knows what you'll get interested in. I still need to show you Oshinoko.
Oshinoko,
and your comment section will know what I'm talking about.
I've never heard of it.
Well, I almost don't want to spoil the premise of what it's about because I would need to show you the pilot. And the pilot is an hour and a half, but it is worth it. It is so worth it. It's great.
Everyone in the comments, tell me which anime you want me to be exposed to next.
You've seen Bobobo, right?
Bobobo?
Bobobo. Okay, no, you haven't, man.
You're telling me there's a show alongside Dan to Dan that's called Bobobo? What the fuck?
Bobobo is my favorite anime of all time. It is a parody, and well, more like satire of shonen manga.
Okay.
So like, there's a lot of satirical elements to it. It's incredible. It had a really good English dub on Toonami, and yeah, I love it. It's so funny. I was watching clips of the show the other day. I think I showed you a clip once, but I was watching clips of the show from like the English dub, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this still holds up.
Well, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be sure to check it out at some point in the future, but you know, whenever there's a new Spy Family, a new... What's the one with the chicken lady?
Delicious in Dungeon.
Delicious in Dungeon. I'll be sure to give it a look. I will see what all the hubbub is all about.
Now you'll know from me. Now we gotta watch Look Back and cry.
Is that the full title, or is it just Look Back?
It's just called Look Back. It's an hour long. I'm sure it might be on a streaming service now. I saw it in the theater.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I could get a Crunchyroll account. I could.
Or you could use mine.
Even better.
But at the very least, you should watch JoJo.
How long is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Hundreds of episodes.
Oh, God. Hundreds?
They're like 6 parts of that show out.
And how many episodes does each part take up?
Around 40 to 50.
Oh, my God. It's question time. It's question time, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time again. We're at the end of the show, but my patrons have sent in questions and we're going to answer them for you here on C Squared. You ready, Carol?
I'm ready. Run them down.
Okay. First up is Stench Vanilla, who asks, what's some of your favorite music in Mega Man? Mine are Flamestag, and this is not me. Mine are Flamestag, Jet Stingray, Polar Cameras from Mega Man 02, Skullman's theme, Slash Man, Gravity Beetle, PS1 version, Pharaoh Man, Dive Man, Metal Man, Woodman, Doubles Battle theme, and lastly, Zero's Battle theme from Network Transmission. It's a lot of picks. I've always been partial to... For some reason, my favorite Robot Master theme is Freeze Man from Mega Man 7. I don't know why.
Yeah, okay.
It's just whenever I hear that, I'm always in a good mood. I love Flame Man from Mega Man 6. The it's so good. And of course, the entire soundtrack from Mega Man 9. It is a perfect, godly, untouchable soundtrack. Mega Man 9 is the greatest thing ever.
Yes. Agreed.
But I'm also one of those people who sticks by Mega Man 10. I felt like there was a lot of drop off from people who said that like 10 wasn't as good as 9 musically, and they're wrong. 10 had an amazing soundtrack. What are you talking about?
It was great.
I love the music in general. There's so many games. I could just go on for hours and hours.
9 soundtrack is fantastic. My quote unquote hot take is that the Wily Final Boss music is the best Wily Final Boss music in the entire series, and that includes any Wily castle theme, like in Mega Man 2.
Yeah. That's good.
I just love that. I like a lot of Mega Man X music. I like Wire Sponge and Mega Man X2. I'm kind of on that game, but I like X2's soundtrack. I also like, and you can help me out here, Clement, Mega Man ZX. Like, when you're waking up in that level for the first time and you have the power, and the level just goes...
Area A.
Yeah, that got me so hyped. I'm like, damn, okay, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that theme fucking rules. ZX like in general has a great soundtrack. Like, I love...
It does.
And I would definitely recommend, if you've only played the game, look up the remastered soundtrack that was released at the same time as the game, because if you want those same tunes but with higher quality instruments that sound fucking awesome, like a fucking hardcore guitar and stuff, definitely check out the remastered soundtrack. It's friggin' phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, and if I had to recommend a song that maybe you haven't heard that is awesome as hell, Wily Tower 4 from the Wily Tower portion of Mega Man: The Wily Wars.
Okay.
Wily Tower 4 is so fucking good.
Yeah.
But anywho, thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Warrior Nerd 2000 asks, have you and or Caro played the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog? If you haven't, it's free on Steam. If you have, what did you think of it? How do you feel it handled the characterizations? It's an extremely cute visual novel. I think it handles the characterizations perfectly. I think nobody's out of character, certainly. And, I like at the end when they have to, like, convince the robot to let go of his master because he's retiring soon. And I think it has a pretty sweet, wholesome ending, all things considered.
It's cute.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really touched it since I played it. Like that one time, but, it's a great game.
But you did do a commentary on it.
Oh, my God, that's right. I did one with Brain Scratch. And they didn't advertise me. But
Damn.
but anywho. Yeah, it's a great game. We loved it. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Gum Rubber asks, hey, Clement and Caro, been watching since 2013, and I have 2 questions for you. 1, have you seen the TV show Amphibia? It not only has Sonic references, it has other video game references too, plus a certain voice of Sonic plays a background character in an episode or 2. And 2, what are your thoughts on Sonic Prime, and what do you think of the cast of that show?
So I've seen the first 3 episodes of Amphibia, and I liked it a lot. It's one of those shows that's been on my backlog, and I need to, like, go through, because, like, a lot of people say really good things about it, and I like the vibe of the show and how it was set up, so I think I would enjoy the rest of it. I just have to, like, go through it. Unfortunately, the one show that I'm watching right now is pretty long, and that is The Sopranos, so might be a while before I get to Amphibia.
Okay. I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of this show. Is it about, like, mer people, like mermaids and stuff?
So, Amphibia? No. You're wrong. No. So, Amphibia is a TV show produced by Disney. It is about this girl who gets transported into a world of frogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where Amphibia comes from.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
As for Sonic Prime, I remember thinking that the battle scenes and stuff were awesome. I think the action scenes of that show are really, really good. And I like the cast. I think they do all a pretty damn good job. I like Shadow. I like Rouge especially. If they were ever to bring over Rouge from that show to the games, I'd be happy with that. In terms of the show itself, I just felt like it gets too bogged down in, like, flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like, remember what happened last episode? Remember what happened 2 episodes ago? Remember what happened 10 minutes ago? It's like, fuck, shut up. I know what happened. I've been watching the show. And, you know, it's kind of a weird isolating experience, which, as it should be, it's about Sonic hopping between all these alternate universes that he knows. But it's like, it's kind of weird how technically Tails is in the show, but it's not Tails. It's a different, edgy version of Tails. Technically Amy Rose is in the show, but no, it's a robot evil version of Amy. And then there's another version of Amy in the pirate world, and another version of Amy in the jungle world. And Eggman is not Eggman. He's the weird egg family thing.
Yep.
So it's like, it is Sonic, and it's what you recognize as being Sonic, but there's just something about it that's like, you miss the characters, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I still think it's fine. I think it's fine, but I don't love it compared to Sonic Boom or even Sonic X, frankly.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So I thought, I liked season 1 a lot, because I was like, ooh, they're doing some really interesting ideas, you know? And this is, like, new and fresh, so I'm for it. This is great. I like the writing in it. But I felt like the last season just really fell flat for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this could have been, like, maybe 2 or 3 episodes shorter. So, like, it starts off with a lot of promise, and then it kind of just deflates.
Yeah, I get that. But
again, I am not the target audience.
And I still say the action scenes are great.
Yeah.
Action scenes are fucking phenomenal. I love that fight between Sonic and Shadow in Green Hill. That was, like, probably one of the best clashes they've ever had in any piece of media, so.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Gelly Elfson asks, how do you feel about Super Sentai / Power Rangers? Well, I definitely grew up on it a lot as a kid. Like, I watched the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I watched it all the way to the end of In Space. Like, I saw Zeo, I saw Turbo, I saw In Space, and that's when they had, like, the big climactic finish. And then with Lost Galaxy, they sort of started from scratch, and that's kind of where I dropped off, because for me, I felt like, well, okay, this is a new thing to learn. It's a new arc, a new storyline, new cast of characters. I think I'm good. I think I got the proper finale I needed with the end of Space. And yeah, yeah, it's good fun. I love going back to it and just seeing how cheesy it is and the over-exaggerated, Kimberly, look out! We gotta defeat the putties, huh? You know.
It's so funny because I think the first thing I ever watched from Power Rangers was In Space. Not to kind of like date myself again compared to you. But I remember owning a VHS of that, like some episodes or something. I owned the Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue beat 'em up for the PS1. And I always wanted to be the Pink Ranger. And that's a game that's a guilty pleasure of mine, because like it's from my childhood.
Yeah.
I would say I know friends that are like bigger Power Rangers fans than I am, but I'm more fascinated by like the production of Power Rangers and kind of like how that came over to the United States, because like Super Sentai existed like years and years and years before Power Rangers even like came over to the States.
Yeah.
And like how some of the action scenes from those shows had to be like built around, or I'm sorry, how some of the like in-person like IRL like bits that they filmed in the United States had to like be framed around the Japanese action scenes that are pretty old. So I think that's really fascinating. Like the whole dubbing process of it all.
Yeah, everything about that's fucking glorious.
Wild.
And obviously I haven't seen any of the Super Sentai stuff because I only watched Power Rangers as a kid. And I loved the old Super Nintendo beat 'em ups. I did Let's Plays on those beat 'em ups, which you can find in my playlist if you're curious. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Carrie Renee Rose asks, holiday greetings to you, Clement and Caro. It's that time again. Hopefully you both are doing well. If so, great to hear. If not, I do give you both my wishes for things to get better. Now for the questions. First one is for the both of you. Have either of you played the new Mario and Luigi title? If so, what are your thoughts? The next question, assuming it's applicable for this episode, Clement, as someone who fully watched your Remember Final Fantasy series, have you gone back to FF14 after your video and try to catch up with the current content with Dawn Trail? Always happy to be a fan of C Squared. You guys be safe and take care.
Thank you. So I have not played Brotherhood yet. I honestly don't know if I'll ever get to it. I never really grew up with the Mario and Luigi series. Not because I didn't like it. It's just, you know how like you're a kid and like they're just game series that just happen to enter like your field of vision, and so you gravitate toward the series. Unfortunately, Mario and Luigi was not one of those.
I remember getting stuck in Superstar Saga, so that's why I never finished it, because I really just didn't know where to go. And I find every time I start up that game, it's the canyon area, you know? You get to the canyon area with the waterfalls, and I always get fucking stumped on where I'm supposed to be going. I find that part kind of clumsy, frankly. But otherwise, I do want to play it. I will get it eventually. I have been bogged down with so many RPGs lately. It's been RPG after RPG after RPG after RPG.
This was an RPG heavy year.
And I will play it eventually. I'm not in the mood for another one.
Yeah.
I need a break. Which goes into 14. I did go back to it when I was recording footage for Final Fantasy 16 because it was the same devs that made that game. And I just wanted some comparison shots to like talk about 14 as I was talking about 16. And I did get a little further in. I was doing a little bit of Endwalker stuff, but I haven't really touched it beyond that. And so no, I haven't gotten to Dawn Trail yet, unfortunately, but
we'll get there someday.
I feel like me and Caro are going to like brute force that thing someday, and we're just going to like go through all of the campaigns together. And
set up 2 separate PlayStation setups.
Yeah. And just do what we can. But I'll get to it eventually. Both of them. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Robert Boy Genius asks, how low the mighty Caro and the other one? Hey!
Haha.
I've recently finished watching the Netflix documentary on Vince McMahon and the WWE. My question is, what is your opinion on McMahon or the Doc? A person who has allegedly done nothing... Sorry, I had to snicker when I read this. A person who has allegedly done nothing wrong. one thing it did do is get me interested in wrestling. So where does one start on that journey, at least in a WWE sense? I'll join the AEW light soon enough. Hope all is well, and that you have yourselves a lovely day.
So, the Vince McMahon documentary was great, in the sense that it covered as much ground as you could possibly cover in like 6 episodes. There's like still way more to talk about Vince McMahon, but if you want like the footnotes and like a summary of all of the fucked up things that he's done, that's a great documentary to watch. When I think about WWE, I really want to separate Vince McMahon from the wrestlers themselves. And that's like the unfortunate thing about like Vince McMahon's reputation, is that like it's none of the wrestlers' fault that like Vince McMahon is the heinous evil person that he is. Like I'm a fucking Vince McMahon person. If I'm not clear enough, I do not like this man. This guy is like literal scum of the earth. He's horrible. He's done a lot of awful things to women and pretty much like does a lot of uncomfortable power dynamics in the roster, but like it's not necessarily like the wrestler's fault, or it's not Becky Lynch's fault or Rhea Ripley's fault or Sami Zayn's fault that Vince is the way that he is. And I like supporting the wrestlers and the people that put in the work to produce episodes of wrestling every week versus the person that was running this company to the ground for a long time. I'll give you a good idea. So, because of all the allegations, he left the company in like 2022. He tried coming back for a little bit like in 2023, but like he's out of the company now. So tell me why the moment he leaves the company, WWE has been having their hottest period since the 2000s.
Yeah.
Tell me that.
It's like you were saying, I'll join the AEW light soon enough. And it's like, well, if this was 2018, 2019, we would understand that statement. But actually, WWE is doing pretty darn good right now. And it's fine to enjoy both products. They're both great right now.
I'm glad Vince is gone from the company. I never want to see him back again. If it means a healthier WWE, then yes. It's in a better state now.
Yeah. I, too, was not, like, blown away by a lot of the revelations in the documentary, because I had been following WWE and wrestling for a long, long time. There's even been, like, Dark Side of the Ring, which has gone over a lot of the bullshit Vince McMahon does constantly.
Which I would recommend that show for you if you want to learn more about some of the darker things that have happened in wrestling. That's a great show to watch. It's really sad, though, as an FYI, but yeah.
Yeah. It's on Tubi last I checked, but the thing I got that was interesting was this is the first time that he's being confronted with a lot of his stories, and we get to hear from the devil's mouth his reaction and how he justifies it. And when he starts talking about like, oh, you know, the statute of limitations had gone out by then, it's like, shut up, Vince McMahon, you awful fucking human being. Like, that's what we're concerned with. Like, that's the part we're upset about. Jesus Christ. And, you know, it's just good that this is all out in a general space like Netflix, where WWE is going to be advertising and running live soon, like this month.
Yep.
Or sorry, next month, January 6th.
And also to answer your question about starting your WWE journey, this is like actually the best time to hop in, because next month starts the road to WrestleMania. And within that time, you'll start seeing some events and episodes that lead up to the biggest event of the year. And WrestleMania is the largest show that WWE produces. It has a lot of the biggest storylines of the year. A lot of the most popular stars are on it. So they're going to start doing a lot to build hype for that show. And I always encourage people to jump on during that time, because you really get to see like the peaks of what wrestling can do during that time. You should watch the first episode of Raw on Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't know if Netflix is going to work or buffer, but...
It didn't seem to work for the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight.
No, man. The app crashed on me during that fight. But I would say just jump in. You don't have to like someone immediately. It takes time to find someone that you really vibe with. So don't feel pressured to like have a favorite show or have a favorite wrestler immediately. But if you do, that's awesome. And I might be working on a little project soon that has to do exactly with the topic of getting into pro wrestling. So, wink, wink. Stay tuned for that.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's all I'm gonna say. I may have bought this microphone for additional reasons outside of C Squared.
Ooh. But yeah, thank you for the question, and thanks to everyone for your questions over on Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, some of you might be asking, what happened to Sonic X Shadow Generations? You aren't talking about that this episode. Well, actually, we've already talked about it, and you can see it right now on Patreon. When I started up the Patreon, I did make a paywall of sorts for one form of content, which at the time was Sonic the Hedgehog. There's a reason I haven't been covering Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Superstars, Sonic X Shadow. You know, I haven't been covering anything on my main channel because that is being prevented with a paywall. I just need a certain amount of people to support me on Patreon for those options to be unlocked. In order to incentivize people to pay towards the Patreon, I figured, well, I gotta go a little bit cold turkey with you guys, and I decided to make Sonic and Shadow a bonus for all the people who are choosing to pay. They do need more extra content. I need to give them more exclusive stuff that only they can see. I feel like this is a good compromise.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Sonic X Shadow, if you want our thoughts and you want to hear us discuss it, we talked about it for like 50 minutes over on Patreon. It's right there, and again, you don't even need to pay for like the whole year. Just pay for 1 month, watch it, and then unsubscribe. That's all you gotta do. I don't care. And for the people who are paying every single year, thank you. I value you so much. But yeah, Caro, that's it. That'll be our final C Squared for 2024. Any hopes for 2025?
Any hopes for 2025? To be alive, given recent events.
I definitely pray and wish for that too.
I must say, we're getting locked in for 2025.
Oh boy.
I'm kind of excited.
It's gonna be a big year. It's gonna be a big year.
A very, very big year.
Oh boy. I would like to improve my productivity so that I can get more videos out, and not just C Squared, but, you know, my Xboxes and my FF7 rebirths and all of those things that I wanted to do that I couldn't get done because I've just had a lot of shit going on this year. I really have been trying to improve my schedule. I have been working out to lose weight, and I've just been trying to manage my life and get everything back to the way it used to be. So far, so good. I'm enjoying the progress of the Xbox video that I'm working on right now.
There is just a lot going on in the background, and as we get closer to 2025 and go through the year, it will all make sense. So just stay tuned. It's all gonna come together. You will see.
But yeah, we did it. Another episode in the bag.
Yay! Now I'm gonna go back and play some Balatro.
Oh yeah, you're a gambling addict. I forgot.
No, I'm not a gambling addict. Just one more run. Just one more.
It's okay. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. I'm just pointing out that you're a gambling addict.
You cannot download this game until you're finished with Xbox. I'm just saying, you're never getting that video done if you download Balatro.
Oh, Balatro. I haven't played it yet myself, but I'm sure it's amazing.
It is amazing, but you need to finish your video first. I care about your health.
But I don't want to.
No!
But yeah, it's been fun. We shall talk to you guys next time. I am the Great Clement.
And I am Caro. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.